Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Checkup. I just spent the full week in Israel, and while national media mainly focused on my flight over there, I want to talk to you about the trip itself, which was incredibly enlightening. Let's get started. Beep-whoop. We have to give a huge thank you to America's Voices in Israel. They're the nonprofit that brought me over there, allowed me to connect with the hospitals, universities, the biotech companies. Let's start from day one. Day one, I visited a nonprofit called Save a Child's Heart. This is something that's obviously near and dear to my heart. Being a family medicine doctor, I treat children all the time. But because we're in the United States, we're very fortunate to have the amazing high technical caliber care where if you're born with a congenital disformity of your heart, meaning that there's something wrong structurally within your heart as a child, we're able to operate because we have all this fancy tech, highly trained surgeons, but those who live in developing countries don't have access to care like that. So what this nonprofit does is it brings children from all across the world, something like 59 countries, right to Israel. And it not only treats these children, but it also takes medical professionals from that country and trains them how to perform some of these life-changing procedures. I'm talking open heart surgery, catheterizations, and they've done this with over 5,000 children. They're saving lives every single day in this foundation. And the thing that I love most about them is that in these divisive times, their core mission is to save children's lives regardless of the nationality, the gender, the religion. And I think that's something powerful because it shows how medicine can bring the world together. It's just amazing. There was a few doctors that I spoke with from Africa that left their families behind for the opportunity to train for 3 to 5 years under these skilled surgeons so that they can better serve their community. They're giving their all to be able to participate in one of these opportunities. It was not only enlightening to me, the work that's being done that I've never heard about, but it makes me want to work harder. It makes me want to do more nonprofit work and see what I can do from my little YouTube channel here to change the world. Next, we went to the Weizmann Institute and visited with a doctor by the name of Dr. Spiegel. He essentially studies how our current experiences change not only how our genetics are expressed, but also possibly changing our genome. We often say, oh, I can't get big muscles because I don't have the genetics for it. Well, if his research comes to fruition, at least his hypothesis, which he has great, references for, maybe working out consistently throughout our lives can change our genetic code so that when we procreate, we can create children that have better genetics that can work out and build bigger muscles. Now, I'm obviously using a very simple example here for that. If he's able to pinpoint certain pathways of how we learn or how our genetic code gets activated or changed based upon certain experiences, we can create novel treatments for things like Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, possibly autism, maybe even ADHD. Those are some of the things we talked about. Our conversation took us even a further down the line, talking about mental health. How does playing on our cell phones all the time affect future generations? So does the fact that I keep getting dopamine hits and my attention span is constantly getting fed all of these signals, how does that affect my genetic code in my brain, both from an expression standpoint, but then also how is it changing my genetic code for when I procreate? And I guess I should say if I procreate. Next, I did something that I've been watching for a long time on television called Shark Tank. Okay. I didn't exactly do Shark Tank. Our Crowd, which is a company in Israel, has a MedTech fund that essentially democratizes the ability to invest in private companies. Before, you had to be very wealthy in order to invest in a given product, or at least know somebody or be in that country. Now, anyone in the world can invest as little as $10,000 in some of these private companies. And what Our Crowd set up for me in Israel was 15-minute pitches by some of the leading biotech companies, software companies, MedTech companies, and these people blew my mind. I mean, I met the folks who printed the human 3D heart, the folks who created the hologram, which is the next generation of imaging called real view imaging, where not only can you see the image in front of you without getting fatigued or having the dizziness from traditional 3D images, but they could also make the patient transparent. I mean, that was the craziest part. Like if you're gonna do some sort of intervention, like take a needle and put it into a tumor, they can project onto the human body what the insides look like so that you could be accurate beyond accurate. And I mean, right now it's very expensive, but there's already some laboratories that are getting this stuff. I mean, it's the absolute future. Then I met with a company who's creating software to triage radiology scans so that if you get 100 scans in a busy ER, the computer uses AI learning to see, oh, that looks like appendicitis, that looks like peritonitis, whatever. It sends you based on what is the most severe case so that the radiologists read them in order. On top of it, it points out to radiologists things that they may have missed. When a radiologist looks at a CAT scan, they're looking to see, oh, there's abdominal pain, let's see what's going on in the abdomen. But they may miss that this patient has osteoporosis. And what some of the research this company has showed is that they can use it as a screening tool. And then probably my favorite company that I met with is called Kyoto Care. They're basically functioning in the field of primary care by creating a stethoscope, tongue blade, otoscope, and thermometer, and a little camera that you can have at home, which will attach to your iPad or whatever device you use to improve the physical exam for telemedicine. What did I say my biggest problem with telemedicine is? No good physical exam. You have a child with a fever, you can't look inside their ears from a Skype, but if you have an otoscope that's attached to a little device, now you can. So I got very excited about the work that they're doing, and we're in talks to see how we can help one another. You may be hearing about that in the near future. My next stop was in Hadassah Medical School, where I met with Dr. Danny Benz-V, who's running a lab that studies bariatric surgery and how it reacts on certain metabolic pathways. There's a lot to digest there, so follow along with me and enjoy the pun that I said digest. Bariatric surgery are the weight loss surgeries that we do when patients find themselves to be extremely obese, what we call morbidly obese. What we found is that once patients lose weight, we see a tremendous decrease in chronic diseases like high cholesterol, diabetes, and we attribute most of these improvements in chronic diseases, some even say cures, to the rapid weight loss that patients have. What Dr. Benz-V has found in his research is that even in mice who don't lose weight after bariatric surgery, we still see improvements in these chronic diseases. And what he's trying to isolate are the metabolic pathways for why bariatric surgery helps improve some of these chronic diseases. Imagine if he's able to find a pathway, a hormone, a marker, a signaling pathway for why bariatric surgery improves diabetes, we can then use that to create a medication, a treatment. As with all initial research or research that's done on mice, there's a lot of promise. And then we have to take that promise and bring it into human trials and see if we can make that same impact on not only humans, but on end result markers, blood sugar, lifestyle, life expectancy, morbidity, mortality, all of that stuff. It seems like all I'm doing is being super business minded and altruistic and all this stuff. I was able to make a little fun for myself as well. I had a meet and greet. Huge thank you to everybody that showed up despite all of the transportation issues that arose on the day of the meetup. I was actually able to go to the Judean desert and ATV off-road. I've never done that before, and that was so fun. I was able to visit Hebrew University in Jerusalem, where they have essentially like a startup city or an incubator. If you watch Silicon Valley, I'm a big fan of the show. They have an incubator that's not for profit. Essentially what they've done is they put all this high-tech gear for people who have great ideas to be able to use that gear together as sort of like a little community, and then create the basis of their research, to then spread out and get grants and funding for all the phenomenal work that they're doing. And the company that excited me most there was a company by the name of BrainQ. They essentially take electromagnetic waves, expose patients to them at no risk to them, no discomfort, and allow nerves to essentially regrow and reconnect after they've been severed. Now, they don't like saying the term reconnection. I guess, medically and through nomenclature, that's not exactly what's happening, but they've showed me results of patients who've used their technology and actually recovered limb mobility just by using their technology. Now, the way the technology works is essentially they were able to perform EEGs, which is an electroencephalogram. We put on this brain cap and we put all these electrodes on the brain and we see the brain activity. And what they've done is they've been able to map out all of these different brain waves that are supposed to happen when your neurons fire during certain activities, that they can essentially reprogram your nerves that are damaged to do those same functions. Now they're in preliminary testing, they're about to start doing some clinical trials, but the foundation of their research is really interesting. Their founder, in fact, has a very touching story. I don't want to ruin it and get any details wrong, but he's very passionate about what he's doing. He has a great team in place. If this comes to fruition, I mean, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be used in addition to physical therapy to speed healing, possibly treat stroke patients, treat traumatic brain injuries, all of these really serious conditions neurologically that once were thought to be, permanent, can now be changed and affected by this technology. On the rest of my last day, I spent touring all around Jerusalem. I mean, it was powerful spiritually and from an educational standpoint to be around a mosque, a church, a synagogue, all in like this small radius where you have people from all different religions living in harmony. Me being someone who's not very religious, but I am somewhat spiritual, this was very powerful. It was educational to learn about the history of all peoples and how this place has ended up such a holy site for multiple religions in different aspects. I was thinking, would it be safe to be in this area? It was very safe. I did not feel threatened at any moment. It feels like everyone was very welcoming. They wanted to share their history. They wanted to talk about what makes, their religion or their spirituality special. And me being someone who's eager to learn, I was excited to participate in that and learn about all the different cultures that live in Israel. In its entirety, this was such an educational and eye-opening trip where I got to learn some of the amazing work being done in Israel, allow me to bring some of that work to you within this video and in the future. Obviously, on the trip going there, we're able to help our buddy Matt, who is now alive and well, and we actually had a little meet and greet inside one of the Jerusalem hospitals. I learned a lot. I think that I'm going to become a better doctor as a result, and hopefully we can all come together and do some really great things in this world without focusing on solely the divisive nature of what's going on in our politics. Let's put that aside and focus on our health, focus on our humanity first. And with that, I'll leave you to watch a little bit more of a fun video if you click right here. As always, stay happy and healthy.